All right. Hello. Welcome back to the Mile 17 podcast. This is Colton, and I am super excited because I have my first guest here today. This is Knica. Knica is a bartender turned entrepreneur. Knica used the First Form platform to launch her passion for health and wellness coaching before starting her own coaching business. Knica now spends her time one on one coaching to help clients achieve a sustainable lifestyle that best suits their lives. Nika has coached many people on their journey to weight loss, muscle building, eating habits, and several other unique health goals. Her qualifications include, but are not limited to, a CrossFit Level 1 coach, certified personal trainer, certified nutrition coach, and above all else, real life experience. Nika knows what it is like to live a life with low self confidence and battling with unhealthy, non sustainable habits. Nika now spends her time living in the Phoenix metro area with her husband Josh and son Zayden. So, Nika, welcome to the Mile 17 podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm truly honored to be your first
Yeah.
guest. I was like, me? You want me to be on your
Yeah, because
sure.
honestly, I love the work that you do, and I mean, I've even been one of your clients before, and so has Kai, and like I feel like my whole family's kind of dabbled in your work a little bit. So I
Mhm.
just, whenever I was thinking about it, I was like, yes, this is like kind of what I want this podcast to be about: is people who are like you, who are out there to change lives and just have taken control of your own life, which I think your whole journey is just like so inspirational. So, and also speaking of Phoenix, I saw that it was like 70 something degrees there yesterday.
It was hot yesterday,
Is
but it's pouring today. It's
Yeah,
cold. So, it's just one of those you never know what to
right. Yeah, I was
expect
like
here.
out on
So,
my walk, which one of the things that I developed from you, a habit that I do all the time. And it was like 29 degrees outside. I have like layers on. I'm like, my nose is like freezing. And I'm sitting here thinking about Phoenix being like 75 degrees. But
oh, it's funny because I'm like when it was starting to get cooler, I was like 70 degrees is chilly, and then now it's like it's a hot
yeah,
day, but I'm sure you're having to adjust out there in
yeah.
Boston. It's nothing compared to where you're
Right,
at.
right. All right. So I kind of just want to start off this conversation. I just want you to kind of take us back to just for anyone listening. Nick and I went to the same high school, from the same town. That's how we know each other. Um, and so I just kind of want you to take me back to being 16 and just to kind of talk about like what kind of like habits you had in your own life as far as like eating or your exercise and just like the relationship that you had with your body at that time.
Yeah, so back whenever I was in high school, I was pretty active. I was playing all the sports, volleyball, softball, basketball. So I was always an active individual, I suppose. My relationship with food, not so much. Like I grew up in a Hispanic family.
Fast
So,
food.
we were taught to yes, definitely the best food. Green chili chicken enchiladas are still my favorite food. Um, but I was always one to clear my plate and go and get seconds, or I was taught to finish my plate. I feel like that was
Right,
normal back then. You
right,
need to finish your food. But I was always one of the. I guess I wasn't overweight because I stayed fairly active back then. But I was always one of the bigger girls that I hung out with. I was always one of the larger ones who had a little bit of extra fat on their body. I remember being self conscious of my arms because I had more muscle. I know it's
right.
silly
You're like, heck
now because
yes.
I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm
yeah,
proud of it
yeah.
now. But back then, I just remember, someone telling me I had man arms. And when you're 16 years old,
Right.
that was one thing that's just like, I was very self conscious about it. And ended up, using food more as like a coping mechanism back then. And just once I got pregnant, I wasn't able to be as active, and so just kind of took to food and kind of looked at it as, well, I'm going to get fat anyways, so I might as
Right.
well just
So do you
who
think
cares what
do you
I'm
think
eating,
that
you
kind
know what I
of
mean?
like started you developing just like unhealthy habits in that mindset of like, I'm pregnant, I'm gonna get fat anyway. Like I'll just whatever. Like, do you think that kind of like stems to start this like cycle of just like eating bad, and even after you had Zayden, your son, like do you feel like those habits continued?
Mhm. Absolutely. So after I had him, well, of course, before having him, emotions, and I always took to food as like my coping mechanism, and I didn't have very much self confidence back then. And I had no idea what was good for you, what was bad for you, but I hated vegetables. I remember not wanting to eat salad. I wouldn't eat any sort of vegetables. Um, and I was, that's how my parents kind of joked around back then, was like, oh, don't eat, Nika's not going to eat
Right.
your vegetables. She doesn't eat anything healthy. Um, and then, of course, leading up to when I had my son, or when I got pregnant with my son, I think it was obviously very emotional because I was in high school. I had to give up all of the sports that I was going to. My parents obviously were not very happy, so it wasn't like a calm
Right.
pregnancy throughout. So I took to food. I remember even the day I went into labor, I was eating McDonald's for lunch and just was like, it was just kind of something that I didn't really think about. I didn't think about eating well to have a healthy pregnancy. I mean, I was just like, well, I'm
Right.
just getting fat
Right.
anyways. And so um and then after I had him, it was just more of like that coping, that comfort food, and just continued to gain weight after that.
Gotcha.
So,
So if you're comfortable with it, kind of take me back to being you were 17 when you got pregnant, right? How how did that?
mhm.
I mean, it's funny because I remember, like I said, going to high school together, and like I have very like vague memories. Like I remember you being pregnant, but I feel like it's really funny because with us, we had like these mutual friends, like really good friends, and you and I really never like crossed paths much in high school. Like, because I was trying to think back to it, and I was like, I remember
Mhm.
Nika, but like she had played sports with my sister, like, and you were best friends with, like I said, some mutual friends that we had, and it's so funny how we didn't really like interact much. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
so kind of just like paint the picture and like take me back to being 17 and being pregnant and what that does to you like emotionally as like a teen mom. And then not even just being like a young mom.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of it was I was very stuck with my same people, I suppose, and then I ended up with so my self confidence was the thing that led me to getting in trouble with a lot of boys. Like I never really got in trouble with parties. I
It
wasn't
was the
much of a
boys.
partier. I didn't go out much. It was the boys, yes. There was, things that happened my freshman year with boys, and then it was always, I felt like, noticed, and especially from older guys. So I ended up dating someone who was about 4 years. Zayden's dad, he's about 4 years older, and so I just felt like the coolest, like prettiest person ever because somebody was interested in me, and we dated for a while. We were together for about a year, but he was out of high school. He was graduated. Um, and I and we actually weren't we were a long distance relationship, and then my junior year, I believe that's whenever I got pregnant, and um it was obviously I didn't find out till that summer. And so my junior year I felt like was like my highlight year. I played all of the sports. I remember getting ahead in school and getting ready to go into like college classes and things like that. And then of course, in between my junior year and senior year was when I found out I was pregnant. And so from then on, I felt like there goes my whole life, right? There goes my future. There goes my senior year, the best year, the year that's supposed to, that you're supposed to just go out
Right,
with
because
a
I mean,
bang,
when you're that young,
and
like that's, I mean, that's all you know. Like that's all you can see is like this is senior year. Like you can't, there's no vision beyond that. Like this, that's all you know. And especially, I think coming, from where we come from, where it's such a small town, like your perspective is so narrow. You're just like, oh my god, like yes, like my whole life is over now because I'm not having this typical like senior year of high school.
yep. And I think it was especially hard because my mom, she got pregnant in high school as well.
Oh,
And my whole life growing up, that was like her biggest rule was whatever you do, don't get pregnant. Just don't get pregnant in high school. Like,
I'm glad you
and
can
that
laugh
was
about
the
it now.
one.
I'm sure she does too, but
Yes. Well, and it's comical because my sister got pregnant as well in
that's
high
right.
school, so
I
it's
think I was in
just
the
like,
middle. I think she was a year younger than me. I think you were a year older than me. So yeah, that's.
mhm,
I mean, like that's so
yep.
funny now, and especially because I mean, you both have like wonderful kids. Like you can just tell. I don't see much of her kid, but like I just see Zayden, on your stuff, and you can just tell like he's so full of life, and now he's like your pride and joy, and it's obviously all that pain and suffering and whatever you went through being pregnant and all the feelings was obviously worth it and paid off. Well, I mean, what would you,
Absolutely.
if you could offer like a word of encouragement or just, any kind of advice for not even just teen moms, but just like a young mom going through these kind of emotions, what would be that? What would you say?
I would say that no matter what research you do, no matter what piece of advice someone gives you, like, you know what is right for your kid, and you're doing everything you can to raise your, if you care, you're a great mom, and something that my husband tells me all of the time is bad moms don't care if they're
Right.
bad moms. And I always question myself, am I doing the right thing for him? Am I being a bad mom to him? And always wanting to just give him the best future, even though, I had him at such a young age. um, that's the best piece of advice that my
Yeah.
husband gave me is bad moms don't
Right.
worry about if
Right.
they're bad
And I think,
moms.
I mean,
So
obviously I'm not a parent, but I think that so many parents struggle with that is if they're doing enough for their kid, and at the end of the day, like, you're going to screw up, you're going to do things that when Zayden's an adult, he's going to be like, oh my god, like my mom did this, and like you can't help it, like. And I think that's one
Mhm.
reason why I'm also just like, I just love like the work you do and just like who you are as a person, because I relate so much, like when you post stuff with Zayden, like, and I tell you, like, I'll comment to you like, oh my god, like this just reminds me, like, I just like, I was always so close, and like that motherly love is like, you can't beat it, honestly. And you can just tell, like, you just like, you light up anything to do with Zayden, you just love. So yeah.
I do. He's such an awesome kid, and everyone's like, "Well, you're the
Right.
one who raised him," and I still just wonder what I did
Yeah.
right because he's
how old,
he's
how old is he
awesome.
now? Is 10?
He
That's
just turned
wild. Can you
11,
believe that that's how
so
long it's been since you've been in high school?
I right?
Wow.
Like, I cannot believe it. He's already 11 going into, like, he'll be in junior high in less than a couple
It's crazy.
years, so
That
yeah.
means we're all getting old, right?
Oh, wow. Not looking forward to the, driving or the
Oh god.
relationships. Like, he's already
Yeah,
emotional as is, so we're gonna see how
that's
that goes.
awesome. All right. So my next question for you is kind of take me through the journey to getting to Phoenix, and then because you moved there with, did you move there with Zayden's dad? Is that how you got down to Phoenix, or did you go down there after the fact? You just kind of moved down there.
So I actually, after I had Zayden, so I finished my senior year online. So I am proud of myself that I actually graduated, despite the fact that I had my son in the
Right.
middle of
Yeah.
my senior year. So I still graduated. And then at the end of that year, we actually moved to Tucson for a couple months with my dad, because Kelby, Zayden's dad, had a job there. And then he ended up getting a job in Morenci, which is like a super
Right.
small mining town. Um, and so we moved there for about a year. And that's whenever, we didn't get
Yeah. Yeah.
along
I mean,
pretty much. We'll
you're
leave it
both,
there.
is you think, you look back to it, and it's like you were so young, you both were raising a kid while you're still trying to figure out your own, who you are and what you want in life. And I, I look back now that I'm an adult, I understand, like, my parents divorced young, and it's like, yeah, how could you not? Like, you grow into so, like, such different people, and then when you have kids in the mix, it just makes it that much more like emotional and difficult to like make those decisions, to just like separate and be able to like go your own way.
Absolutely. And, we just figured out that we just weren't good together. We both love Zayden. We agreed to that. We still continue to agree to that and do what's best for him. But we decided to go our separate ways after a year of being together, or after Zayden was a little over a year. So I moved back home. I moved back to Sholo for a couple years there, and that's whenever I started getting into fitness. I was like, you get
Right.
over a
Yeah.
big breakup, and that's when I was absolutely at my heaviest. So I was, probably. So I'm 5'3", so I was probably around 210 pounds. Not a whole lot of muscle because I wasn't working out, um, and so that's whenever I moved back home. And that was just kind of my motivation to, all right, time to make a change, time to focus on myself. I think a lot of it was vanity as well, because I was like, how could
Yeah.
anyone love
Yeah.
me? I have a
Right.
baby, I'm overweight, I'm not beautiful, like, and so that kind of was that internal motivation plus external motivation, because once again, it was that self-confidence thing where I want that recognition from outside of me,
Right.
I suppose, from somebody else. And so that kind of fueled my first transformation, my first 60 pounds lost. I lost about 60 pounds that first year whenever I left Zayden's dad. Um, Lost about 40 pounds, but I didn't necessarily do it in a sustainable
Was that
way,
was it
you
was that
know?
a lot of was that
Um,
a lot of restricting, or were you just, like, going to the gym, like, every single day and, or was it a little bit of both?
so it started off with just restricting food. So I remember not eating for hours throughout the day. And I still had that mindset. I actually had a memory come up not too long ago from whenever I was doing it. I was doing just the pure salad diet. So I would only
Gosh,
eat
that
salads
that sounds like
throughout
my
the
worst
day.
worst nightmare, especially for someone who doesn't like
Right?
vegetables, I mean.
Let me tell you. So this is what I thought that you had to do was, just eat salads and work out. And so I started working out. Actually, someone we went to high school, Seth, he wrote me workout programs for or in my parents' garage. And so I just was doing like just little at home workouts at first. And then I actually lost the 60 pounds working out from home. Um, and then at the end of that year was when I got my first gym membership for Christmas. My parents bought me a gym membership, and I fell in love with the gym. I just fell in love with working out. I had help. I had a friend of mine um, who grew up there as well write me workout programs for the gym. She actually kind of taught me a little bit about macros. I never really stuck with it. I did start drinking protein shakes a little bit, but just fell in love with the gym, and that's kind of where I got started and got down to a lean weight and recognized by boys again.
Was
So,
that is that when you, like, started CrossFit, was at that point?
so not yet. I thought I had to be in super
Right.
good shape
A
to
huge
start CrossFit.
misconception by people, yeah, is that you
So,
have to be first you have to be in shape to get your foot in the door at CrossFit, which is so not true for anybody out there
mhm,
listening. I mean, there's people of all shapes and sizes, ages. I don't. Yeah, even now where I'm working at CrossFit Boston, I mean, there's people that are probably in their 70s, like, and it's like, yes, they're not doing the things that maybe the people in their 20s are doing, but they're still there and able to like modify things, which is what I absolutely like love about CrossFit is that aspect of it.
absolutely, yeah. Everything's modified. You can do anything, and it's more just about
Right.
the community, not so much about what
Right.
you can do. That's what I
Absolutely.
love about it. But I was one of those who thought that I had to be in super good shape to join. I'm not ready
Right.
for it. And so I just worked out at the gym, did my own thing. And then finally I felt fit enough and was convinced to join CrossFit Sholo. That's where we grew up. And I
Yeah.
loved it.
Hooked. Yeah.
Rest is history from
I
there.
start I
You
started
fall in love.
when I started at CrossFit Solo when it was like, oh my god, it was literally in like an actual like tiny little box. Like I think it was run by like the firefighters in Sholo, and it was like so small, and we had no idea what we were doing. And it was like there wasn't even classes. You could go in, and it could be like 11:22, and you just like start a clock somewhere and like start working out. And so it's fun to like see like what I started CrossFit as versus like now. Like it's just very interesting. Um, so okay, so
Right.
then you ended up in Phoenix, and you were bartending, correct? How long did you bartend for?
Hmm. For about 4 years. So after CrossFit, a year later, I met my now husband on Tinder, and so hey, don't
I met
don't
I,
hate
I
on
met
it,
Kai
found
on an
love.
app too. Like it's fine.
I think that's
Yeah,
honestly how you find people
it's
nowadays,
nice.
and
It's like
so
you can look at the things you
I
like
know
and then talk to them, and it's like, okay, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Next, don't waste
exactly.
don't,
Swipe
don't waste
left,
your time.
right?
Like,
Exactly. No. And so fell in love with him. He actually drove up to Sholo pretty every weekend for a year. And so I was like, all right, it's time for me to move down. So that's how I ended up here. A couple of my friends worked at a restaurant that I worked at for 4 years called
okay, yeah.
Charleston's. And that's when I started bartending.
And then okay,
So,
so how did you get to a point to where you're like, okay, I'm gonna make this leap to coaching? Like were you burnt out of bartending? Did you just not feel like fulfilled? Or what was like that point in your life where you're like, okay, like something's gotta change, like I'm really passionate about this, like I'm gonna take this leap. And you started at first form, right? That was the first thing that you did kind of in the coaching realm.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm. Yeah. So after 4 years of doing the same thing, bartending, and I don't hate on it. It's
Yeah.
easy cash, and it brought me to
Sure.
where I am today.
My sister still
Uh,
does it. Was a teacher, left teaching, went back to bartending because sometimes like
mhm.
it pays the bills for sure and more. So yeah, totally. Yeah.
It does, and it is nice to have, like,
Sure.
that
Yeah.
social interaction and everything, but it just wasn't, like you said, fulfilling. It really wasn't. I was just doing the same thing, and I was sick of just serving alcohol and drinks and and food to just people who didn't necessarily
Right.
appreciate it,
Yeah.
I suppose. I didn't feel appreciated. It was right. So I left in 2020. So it was actually the beginning of 2021. And I was just over it. I didn't really want to deal with like the community and like all of. I felt like that was such a toxic year for being in
Yeah.
public,
Yeah. For
obviously.
sure.
And actually, I completed 75 hard the first time that year as well, and that kind of sparked my passion for fitness again. Because after moving down here, so it took me 4 years to dedicate to coaching. Um, it i, I kind of let go of fitness for a while. I stopped going to CrossFit for a few years. Didn't really care too much about my health. I would work out here and there. Like, I got back into the gym whenever I was getting married to, of course,
Right.
look fit in my wedding dress, things like that. But never didn't really, I kind of let go, and I was starting to put weight back on, not love my body anymore. Wasn't taking care of myself. And that year, 2020, I was like, you know what? I was listening to Andy Frisella's podcast, and him, that's whenever he kind of first launched. It was about a year after he launched
He scares
75
me a little
Hard.
bit.
And I was, oh yeah, he's, I've met him in person a couple times, and he is, he's still just as hard in
Definitely
person.
scares me a little bit. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, and so I wanted to do the challenge. I was like, there's no way I could ever give up alcohol for 75 days. There's no way I could ever drink a gallon of water for 75 days. And so, um, I finally committed to it. Me and Jess, who we went to high school with, we both did it, and we completed it. And I lost another 20 pounds. And that's whenever I started working out in my gym in my garage, and just was like, all right, I want to help people. I want to help people do this. I did the challenges with First Form as well. And so I fell in love with that community. I was like, um, I was helped by a coach through First Form whenever I was doing 75 hard. And so I just was like, just caught up in all of that and decided I wanted to help others get the transformation that I got
Let's
myself. So,
I'm just gonna kinda pause and just tell everybody who's listening what 75 hard actually entails, and tell me if I'm missing things, because I tried it. I think I tried it twice maybe. I never finished it, but it was, you did every day for 75 days straight. It was, you had to do 2 exercises, 1 inside, 1 outside, no alcohol, and you had to read 10 pages of, like, a nonfiction book, correct? Every day, and then what else? Water, gallon of water a day. So all 5 of those things were
mm-hmm.
is that it? Right?
You had to take a picture,
Take a
a
picture,
progress
yeah.
picture every day. The workouts had to be
Okay,
45
yeah.
minutes, or if they're below 45 minutes, and then you had to stick to a diet. It didn't matter what diet, you just had to follow through with
Okay.
a diet.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
Um, I think that's
that
it.
was hard. I think it lasted, like, 25 days, and then I was like, "I can't do this anymore." And I remember, it's funny because Kaya, my partner, who you also kinda helped through this process, it's it's interesting to me because at that time, I don't, and this kind of can be like another point of emphasis, is like, I don't think that he was ready for any of it. Like, and it was like so overwhelming for somebody who had never really like been like, in doing any kind of program like that. And I think that like he so badly wanted to do it, but he just was like, man, like this is not for me. And interestingly enough, like he took a lot of tools that you had taught him from that, and like even now, just like with his nutrition, like it's amazing how much he learned from you from that. And I just think it's important to like kind of emphasize that like not every challenge is right for everybody, and 75 hard, I think,
Mhm.
has really good aspects of it, but on the other end of it, I think it can kind of lead you to like restricting and then binging when you're done. Is that how you kind of felt what would happen?
Yep. So I did that first round of 75 hard, and while I was on it, I remember thinking, I only have a few days left. I can make it, or I only have a few weeks. And counting down until I was finished was 75 hard. And then once it was over, I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, I'm free. And so I can binge out on this, or I can have as much alcohol as I want, or I don't have to go on a walk." And I just felt like I'm free from this 75 hard challenge. And then that's whenever I started to lose progress. I started to gain some weight back. I started to let go of healthy habits. And so I would do 75 hard again. I was like, I got to get back on track. I'm not making progress again. And so I would start it again. And then I would do the phases. And then I would do it again. And then I would do the phases. And I felt like I was only on when I was
Right.
on
Needed
75 hard.
needed
And then
that to like give you some kind of like structure and like guidelines, something to follow, or else like you couldn't just like live your life every day, just like kind of based on how your body feels and in that aspect of it.
Mhm. Yep, it was just I'm either healthy when I'm on a challenge or I'm letting everything out the window and not doing
Right.
anything.
So is that kind of where your
Um,
like where your inspiration for this like sustainable community kind of comes from, like for what you're doing now? For anybody listening, that what Nika's kind of doing now is it's called Sustainably Healthy. Is that like the business name? Okay. Yeah. And you can so kind of
mhm.
like talk to us about that and where that inspiration came from to name it that, and kind of what you're doing with that community.
Yeah, so after my final round of 75 hard, I made a promise to myself that I'm not going to do it anymore because that last round I got down to a very, very lean weight. And it came with a lot of sacrifices. It came with sacrificing my relationships with my friends, not being able to go out with friends, enjoy myself. I remember my friends, we were getting ready for one of my best friends' wedding, and I didn't participate in her bridal shower or events because I was on 75 hard, had to prep my food. I remember getting in fights with my husband because, he wasn't doing the things that were supporting me in my 75 hard journey. And I remember people like remembering me as somebody who lives hard, like, oh, you're doing 75 hard, you do 365-day
Right.
hard. And I wasn't living my life, I wasn't spending time with my son. I wasn't able to be present with him. And it was just became too much. Yes, I got down to an amazing physique. I was proud of that physique, probably doubt I'll ever
Yeah.
get there again, but it's always just reminding yourself of at what
Right.
cost. And so at that time I was preaching doing 75 hard, being perfect with your nutrition. You have to look the part to be a fitness expert. And it just became exhausting. And I noticed that with a lot of my clients, the ones that I was encouraging to be super spot on, it wasn't sustainable. And nothing that we were doing 75 hard wasn't sustainable. Tracking your food for the rest of your life isn't sustainable. Two 45-minute workouts every day is
Right.
not
Like
sustainable.
who has time for that? I
Um,
mean, it's like, yeah. Right.
Nobody.
Right. Right.
Nobody does, right? And so it taught me a lot. I am grateful for the challenges and, like you said, the habits that you do get from those things, but it shouldn't be something that you have to fall back on forever and rely on. And challenges, whether it's 75 hard or even like 8 weeks, 6 weeks challenges, if you're only on for that time, how is that
Right.
healthy? That's not a healthy lifestyle. And so what inspired Sustainably Healthy was small habits each day that you can do, and it's about consistency. It's not about perfection. That you enjoy, like enjoying the process, enjoying the journey, doing things that make you feel good daily and not feeling like you have to. I don't have like you have to do two 45-minute workouts, like you have to chug a gallon of water. Like you should be enjoying the process, and to me that is sustainably healthy,
Right. And
so it's not just about
I think that
oh, go
that's
ahead.
I love that, because kind of what you're saying is, if you're doing something like 75 hard and you miss a day, then even like the app you have is like you start over back from day one, versus, if you're doing this sustainably healthy lifestyle, you have a day where you go out with friends and you have some drinks and you didn't work out and you eat all the shit at the restaurant. I mean, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and like I'm not gonna just like be like, all right, well, all my progress is gone. I'm gonna like, now what? Like you just start back with what you were doing.
Yep. And those things should be included in your journey, right? You should be able to go enjoy yourself. And I feel like when you restrict yourself from things like events with friends, family, going out and drinking and or whatever, like if you restrict yourself from that, then when you do go, and you do give yourself a little bit of freedom, you're going to just be like, well, F it. I'm just going to eat everything because I don't allow myself this. Whereas, like, if you do include it, you'll make more mindful decisions because you're not always restricting yourself.
So take me through kind of what a like typical like if somebody wanted to sign up for like the Sustainably Healthy Community and to get coaching with you, are you doing like fitness programs? Are you planning out people's meals? Like what are you exactly doing now? Is it just nutrition? Is it all of it? Like kind of like walk me through like the process of getting signed up with you and what you're offering people right now.
Yeah. So I no longer offer workouts. I just found that I like to work out, of course, with CrossFit. And so I am coaching in person with CrossFit. But what a lot of people need online is nutrition and habits. And so that's primarily what my one on one coaching is all about. And so I do have a free Facebook community where I offer support, I offer tips, I offer online trainings, things like that in there. But for my one on one coaching, that's primarily just weekly check ins. You have me in your back pocket. I'm here to support you because I've been there. I think that's what a lot of my clients really depend on the most is like when they're struggling, they'll reach out to me. Hey, this is really, I'm having a hard time with staying on track with my nutrition because my emotions are getting in the way. Or I need help navigating. I'm going out to eat. What would you recommend eating? Things like that. And then, of course, I do offer macros, so I do teach them how to track their macros. I don't necessarily do meal plans. I do offer suggestions, but meal plans, I want to be able to teach you everything to succeed on your own. And so, giving you, what I eat every single day, eat this. It's not teaching you anything. I want to teach you what food is fueling you, how to heal your relationship with food. Um, and then, of course, make sure that you're eating to also reach your goals. A lot of my clients who come to me are women who are seeking fat loss. They want to lose weight, achieve a specific goal. And so we do have a step by step game plan to get to that point. But it's not like a quick fix. If you come to me and you're like, hey, I'm 50 pounds overweight and I want to be 50 pounds lighter by March for spring break, I'm going to say, hey, okay, we're going to figure out a way to get there, but it might take you a year, but we're going to do it in a way that's more sustainable, that you're going to enjoy the process. We're not doing restrictions. And so that's kind of my process. Like I said, I do offer that one-on-one nutrition for, or one-on-one coaching for nutrition and more mindset habits, things like that.
So it's not so it's not like a one size fits all program where you sign up and everybody gets the same program. Is it kind of like when people are coming to you, it's kind of like, okay, let's see what you're wanting, what your body needs, and we'll kind of like craft this specific plan for you to reach these goals that you're wanting in a healthy way that ultimately the goal is to really not need you anymore, right? Is to be able to like eventually be able to just kind of live your life on your own without needing a coach to tell you and to check in with you and be like, okay, like tweak these things. Like you ultimately want people to just be able to like take these habits and live their life and take this forever.
Yes, exactly. And in a way, there is a process. Like I do focus on foundations, like helping them build the habits first, and then there is a phase. So I do kind of have a system. So phase one is building up a foundation, building up, those sustainable. I call it the sustainable 7 habits, which is eating enough protein, drinking your water, going on a walk daily, getting sleep, like just those basic habits that we work on. Once you have those habits down, then we dial in on your nutrition more. We focus on, hitting your macros more spot on, being a little bit more, um, I guess, more dialed in, like maybe saying no a little bit to events just to get to that specific weight loss point. But I don't leave my clients once they reach their fat loss goal, say they want to lose 20 to 30 pounds and they get to that point. I don't just say, okay, wash my hands, you're done, because the most important part is the phase after dieting, the phase after losing the weight is teaching you how to implement that into your lifestyle. It's teaching you how to, okay, not rely on macros. How do you make mindful choices without tracking your food? How do you, start to make those conscientious choices to move your body, lift weights still, but enjoy it, and implement that into what I call your version of a sustainably healthy lifestyle, because everyone's sustainably healthy is going to
Right.
be different, you
Right,
know?
and I
So,
think even, like I said, from whenever you were kinda, like, coaching me with the nutrition, it's funny because, I'm a nurse, and so I feel like, there's almost, like, this, like, ego part of me that was like, "Oh, like, I should already know this stuff, like, I don't need the help," but, like, when I let that go and just, like, let you help me, like, it's amazing, like, how much I learned just about, like, my own nutrition and, like, when I had tracked my macros, like, now when I look at food or something, I can usually just I can eyeball it and be like, "Yeah," like, I can ballpark tell you, like, what's in that and if that's what I need for the day. And like there's still times to where like I get to the end of the day or wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my god, like I definitely did not eat enough yesterday because I can just feel my body, like I had a hard workout, and I can just tell when like I don't feel my body in the right way. And so I think it's really important
mhm.
that you're teaching people those things and to be able to like just take that into their everyday life because there's so much out there that's like not good for us, and like all these habits that we pick up as kids or as adults, and it's hard to break those habits without some kind of like structure or some kind of like groundwork to build from.
Mhm. And, I think there's a lot of bad rap around tracking macros. Like,
Right.
people don't want to track every ounce, every gram, everything. But I do think that at one point in everyone's life, you can benefit from it if you do it with the
Right.
right intent. If you're just doing it just to kind of like hit these numbers, these random numbers, if you're just like playing macro Tetris or whatever, to hit your numbers, like you're not going to get the benefit of it. It's okay, like you did, okay, this is what a portion size of chicken looks like. This is what a portion size of, or a serving size of what this looks like. And you're actually understanding like the awareness around it instead of just trying to hit numbers. And I think that's where people kind of get a little bit too fixated, which I've been there, fixated on the numbers, or obsessive, I suppose. Is
Yeah.
that the right word? Obsessive with tracking
Yeah.
macros. If you kind of do it just to kind of be aware, that's where you see the benefit. And that's the tool that you can use, that you'll eventually get to a point where you don't have to track your macros because
Right.
protein, it
Right.
has carbs in it, it has
And it's things
fats
that
in
you
it.
never forget because I mean
Mhm.
we all eat all the time, every day, and so it's like when you're just aware of these
Mhm.
things, like eventually you just start to realize like, oh, like now I understand like what's in all of this stuff. And yeah, once you have it, like you can't forget it. Like I said, you're eating all the time. So how do
Yep.
people I got the link to like your 50 plus macro friendly recipes. Can you just kind of tell me how people can access that? Because it's free, and I was looking through it, and there's Nika has things in this file that are like French toast, waffles, chicken nuggets, desserts like cheesecake, pizza, like all these things that you wouldn't think that you could eat while trying to be healthy. And so I just want you to kind of tell us how we can access that.
Yeah, so you can go to my Instagram. That's usually where I recommend people to find me, message me. That's where I'm at the most. There's a link in my bio, and that's where you can have access to. I actually update
Oh,
it
nice.
weekly. So I update a new recipe each week, completely free, just to kind of give you guys some inspiration, like how I make my recipes. These are the recipes that I make for me. These are the recipes I make for my family. And just to kind of teach you guys that, like, you can enjoy your food while still reaching your goals. The main point of it is, prioritizing protein. So that's the main thing. The main thing that you'll get in this recipe ebook is high protein. I'll like my clients, I'm sure you remember me just
Right.
harping on protein. Eat your protein. I don't care if you're hitting your carbs or fats. I want you getting enough protein. So this recipe book will just kind of give you high protein options, and obviously you can enjoy it if you enjoy those types of recipes, or yeah, so there's a lot in there. So,
Nice.
mhm.
So, okay, I got a couple more questions for you here. I know that, like I said, I follow you on everything, so I watch everything that you post, and there's been a couple times where you've posted times of where you felt like giving up, and there were times where you're like, I just kind of want to throw in the towel on this and go the safe route, go back to bartending or find a different job that I can bring extra income in for my family. Kind of talk to me about that, and what drives you to like push forward and to continue and you know to put that voice in the back of your head away and just like push forward.
Yeah, so, having a son at 18, losing weight, I've been through a lot. Owning a business is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Right.
Like, um, it's very challenging because it's not something that you get that immediate satisfaction. It is very similar to a health and fitness journey. And it's been tough because I have a difficult time, I suppose, talking about my selling myself, because with coaching, you have to kind of sell yourself as a coach. You're not giving anyone a tangible outcome immediately. And so with First Form, I was doing a lot of free coaching. I, wasn't charging. And so now I'm transitioning into my own business and starting to having a coach or a charge for these, just for my one-on-one coaching and things like that. And so that's been a bit of a struggle. The marketing side of things, putting myself out there, like it's a confidence thing. It's something always struggle with and I still work on and try to get better at every day. And so, it's tough, and I've cried more times about this to my husband than I can count. And leaving such a simple job that I made just kind of silly
Right.
money with bartending. It's going in 20 hours a week and
Yeah.
making a
Yeah.
full-time job income, to owning my own business now and not and putting in hours and hours per day, and not seeing that income. It's tough for I it's more guilt on me for my husband, because he's taken a big stress on the family. It's he's had to support me in all of this and everything. And so that's definitely been tough. We're getting there. It's still one of those things that I'm working on. And so, some days I'm just like, I don't want him to have that much stress on his plate. I want to be able to provide for my family as well. And I've made investments into into business coaching and things like that. And I just, it's tough because I am like, it'd just be so much easier if I just worked at the restaurant again. But what keeps me going is, it's a lot like you, like your mile 17, or if you see that meme that's like the little gold
You're like
miner
almost
that's
there. Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, he's almost there. That's what reminds me of it. Like whenever I want to give up, it's just like, okay, I'm getting
Right.
there. And it's not just about the money for me. It's always about just helping people really who were previous versions of me, being there for who I needed back whenever I was struggling in high school, or when I was struggling, whenever I had no idea what was in my food, or when I was struggling with my self confidence and the way I looked in the mirror and things like that. And so, every time I second guess myself and want to quit, want to stop coaching, want to do my own thing, one person reaches out to me and is like, you inspired me today. You really helped me get through this. And it's like, okay, this is why I do what
Right,
I
right,
do.
and
So,
I think when you can go at your at your work from an angle of passion and love, like it just makes it makes it so much better and so much more worth it versus like you're saying, like, yes, like we all need money to survive, like we all want money, like we all like to do things and have things, like that's just human nature. But at the end of the day, I think what I've kind of come to realize is what's the point of this when you get to the end of your life and you look back and you're like, yeah, I have all this money, and then it's like, yeah, but for what? Like, were you actually doing something that you enjoyed and that you loved and that you can look back on and be proud of? And you having a son, like I'm sure that's something that you want to pass on to him, is to like, go at the things that you're passionate about, and build this life that you love and that you crave, that you want to wake up every day and live, versus just doing the societal norm and going to get that office 9 to 5 job, or like just the safe route. And not to say there's anything wrong with that. People, everybody has different wants and different needs. And I think sometimes people don't necessarily have as much emphasis or care on what they do for work, and they have other points of emphasis in their life, and that's totally fine too. But I just think that it's so inspiring and so motivating, like what you do and the work that you put out, and like the way that you just want to help people. I think that's what's going to continue to put you above and to keep you going, is that people see that in you, and they can see that it comes from like an authentic place, and you living that, and showing the pictures of you when you were overweight and like what you've come to now. And then like I saw you post something, I think it was maybe today or yesterday, about how you weigh the most that you ever have, but you feel like it's the way you feel. And I think just especially for
mhm.
women, just to see somebody like being that honest and that vulnerable is, it's just so important for young women especially to see.
Absolutely. And yeah, definitely. Um, I did weigh myself. I am the heaviest, but it's good to get to a point, and that's what I preach to everyone is to not worry about that number on the scale. It's about, if you're living a sustainably healthy lifestyle for yourself mentally more than anything and physically. But that's just kind of what I want to help people. And I have a hard time with like encouraging people to lose weight or saying, yeah, let's, cheering people on to lose weight when it's more about how you feel, and
Right.
like you said, being able to live the best life you possibly can. Um, and no amount of money can get you, a happy and sustainable lifestyle where you're just living your best
Right,
life.
right.
So,
I think once you get I think if you can get that the hardest part for people, I think, is if you can get that mental part down and you can get a grasp on your mentality. I think the physical part of it just kind of comes naturally because like you're saying, like if you
mhm.
can live from a point in your life of just almost like peace and, being okay with yourself and being happy with who you are and the body that you have, then I feel like the physical aspect kind of just like naturally will come from that. So, kind of my last question to kind of wrap this up with you, Nika. So, the whole podcast is called Mile 17, and what I've explained before is this was, a point in the marathon for me to where I had surpassed any distance I'd ever ran. I had, passed my family and my friends. I still had, what is that, like 9.2 miles left to go. I was dying. I felt terrible. I literally wanted to just stop. It was raining, like all these things. I'm not convincing anybody right now to run a marathon, I don't think, but I wanted to lay on the side of the road and die. But basically, that mile 17 is just a metaphor for me, and really is like something that I feel so strongly about, to where I chose to keep going and putting one foot in front of the other. And so I just want you to kind of, paint a picture for me. Tell me, at what in your life, what has been so far, there's going to be many of these, because I don't look at this, the marathon, as like mile one is like you're born, mile 26.2 is when you die. Like, this can be a year, this can be a month, any, a portion, a decade. At what point in your life so far has been your mile 17 that you didn't think that you could go any further, but you just kept putting one foot in the front of the other, and you proved to yourself that you could do it?
um, honestly, like I feel like there's been many, like you said, when it comes to like parenting Zayden and thinking, being a single mom and um, thinking that there's no way I could raise an amazing kid on my own. And I continue to just show up every day for him and do the best I possibly can. When it comes to my business, that's the biggest thing is my mile 17. I feel like every single day I wake up and I'm like, I could just quit right
Every
now.
day is
I could
every
just
day is
give
a
up.
marathon for Unica.
Every day is day waking up and just getting on here and just doing my best and just showing up every day on my social media, showing up every day for my clients, showing up every day just to put my message out there and just know that it comes from a vulnerable, not a vulnerable place, but a genuine place, but there's many days where I just want to give up and just, like I said, go back to bartending. But I know that that's one less person that I'm going to be able to help if I do. So
Well,
that's definitely my.
that's a great answer. Honestly, I love that, and I think that I know I've told you this before, but I think that you're doing an awesome job. And if nobody's told you lately, like, you're killing it, and I love following you and seeing, how you help people. And I think that you're a great example for all the moms out there, single moms, young women, of somebody who's just taking control of their life. And although, the thing that I love is, like, you show when, like, the ugliest parts too. Like, you show when, like, you've had like bad days, or you've, like I said, like, you post the pictures of you when you were not at your healthiest. And I just think that it's so important for today, and especially in society with, with social media and half the stuff that you see on there that really isn't how people live and how they are. And I just, honestly, I think that it's so amazing, which is why I wanted you on this podcast. So, for everybody out there who's listening to this, you can find Nika on TikTok at Nika_Lee. You can find her on Instagram at coach.nika.lee, and that's where you'll find the link to pretty much everything that she has out there. So I'll put in the show notes the link to her for the lifetime access for her macro friendly recipes. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and thank you, Nika, for joining me. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. I appreciate you. I had a blast.
All right,
So.
thanks.
All
Bye.
right, bye, Cole.